Hello, and welcome to a Halloween special. I should have worn like a costume or something. Jeremiah, you should have worn like a costume or something. It's Halloween. Unfortunately, I'm a 35-year-old adult and I don't own any costumes because I don't cosplay.
I have
Uh,
a lot of costumes. I just got too fat to wear them.
Touche. Uh, it is still my dream to get a Master Roshi cosplay costume, but I have not bit the bullet and done it. Or to do Nappa from Dragon Ball Z would also be a really fun one for me to cosplay, I think. I think I've got the build. If I had this a little bit less gut, I think I could pull it off. But Master Roshi, the way he walks, it doesn't matter if he's fat. Anywho, welcome to our Halloween special of Welcome to the Asylum. As per usual, I'm your host, Don, and with me as always is Jeremiah.
Hello. I've been editing all your Evil Bong movies, so
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but I'm more sorry that I had to go through it first.
you
Uh,
picked them.
I did. Yeah, I punished myself. The things I do for my fans, all three of you, the
Well, don't
things
worry. The movie that we're reviewing today is slightly better.
it is actually. So the movie we're here to talk about is Asylum's Halloween movie entitled Halloween Night.
And don't
Thoughtful.
worry, it's based off a true story.
It is
A true story of the writer going to a Halloween party when he was a kid, and there was a prank went wrong, and people thought like an actual insane escaped person had entered the party. They hadn't, but that's the true story that this is based off of.
Yeah,
So
so one of the execs at Asylum used to throw these massive parties, and one year they threw the party in this house. It was out in the middle of nowhere, but it was past a psychiatric facility. And while they were on their way there, they would throw these big pranks. And while they were on their way there, it just so happened that somebody had escaped this asylum, and so that's the true story. The guy didn't like come to the party. They had nothing to do with the party whatsoever. But that's the true story.
it's
That
nothing like stereotyping, mental
crazy.
illness
Just,
in a horror film to just
yeah,
make it sound great and true. It's a terrible story.
it is absolutely
But
terrible.
this is supposed to be their mockbuster of Rob Zombie's Halloween one. Which
Which
let me tell you, anyone who tells me that Halloween Ends is the worst Halloween movie needs to watch this. And Halloween Resurrection again, because Busta Rhymes is not better than Halloween Ends on any level.
one
Ever.
of one of these days, I'm going to make a Halloween tier video, and just so you guys know, spoiler alert: Halloween Resurrection will be the absolute worst movie on that list by a huge margin. I might give it its own category
Rob Zombie gave it its run for its money though.
with Halloween.
Halloween 2. Yeah.
Rob Zombie's first Halloween movie, though, man, that movie is a phenomenal slasher.
Well, it's the best movie to give Michael a like. The first half makes that movie. The second half is torture porn. That's pretty much why it existed.
It was great for its exploration of like Michael Myers' psyche and like what made him who he is. Personally, I think honestly, it is my absolute favorite Rob Zombie horror film.
But do you agree though that the first half makes the movie, the second half is just okay?
Yeah, it's sort of like the remake Friday the 13th, where like the first 20 minutes makes that entire movie, and if you can just ride that rush throughout the rest of it, you'll enjoy it. But if you can't ride it, then you're like, wait a second, why would you do this, Jerry Padalecki? You're better than this.
There's first 20 minutes is good, and then the rest hour and a half, you're like, where's the rest of the movie?
I don't know why they couldn't ride that rush. The first 20 minutes of that movie.
It's like when Jensen Ackles did what was that one? My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like why did you do that? You're better than this.
You're better than this. Now, the first 20 minutes of Friday the 13th, the remake, is probably honestly the best 20 minutes of a slasher film I've ever seen. That is just phenomenal slasher film material. And then they just
and they made the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I know, right? You should have just stopped after 20 minutes, which is why I strongly recommend checking out Don't Hike in the Woods, which there's a review for. If Jeremiah, you want to put a link somewhere around.
It's here somewhere.
Yeah,
but those movies are all better than this movie. We're talking about Halloween Night.
Yeah, sorry, we got on a tangent.
2006 slasher film, directed by Mark Atkins, written by Michael Gingold, Story by David Michael Latt, as so many of these have been by. Starring people
I think
in
Dave
this movie.
Michael Pratt is the one that threw the parties, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's pretty much the person behind most of these early Asylum movies.
Yeah.
And
So I'm gonna sum up this movie for our viewers, and you can listen to us talk more if you'd like, because we will, because I love to talk. But I'm gonna sum this movie up for you. This movie will go down in history as the Halloween movie made by Asylum. It is the quintessential movie. It is a movie. It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, it has a plot. It is a movie. There is literally nothing good about this movie. There is very little that's actually bad, but we'll talk about it. It's just a blah movie.
blah blah blah.
Yeah, and it's a movie. Yeah, that's about it. Jeremiah, thoughts?
No.
So the good, it's actually not a bad concept. As a lot of Asylum, especially their earlier stuff, they just didn't have the budget for. It's not a bad concept. It's about.
I think this movie had the budget to do what they wanted to do. It's just bad. It had the budget.
The acting, they could have spent more money on it.
So let me just say, this movie starts off pretty offensive. So
It
the
does.
movie follows Chris Vale, who is admitted into asylum at age 12 after witnessing his mother's rape and murder by two thugs hired by his father, who then committed suicide. Okay, he barely survived having his face burned off by one of the thugs. Okay, so
Yep.
first of all, asylums do not exist now. They have not existed since like the 60s, when JFK had them closed and they've been transitioning to hospitals.
Right, because it turns out asylums didn't work.
And they're terrible.
Yeah, it's
at 12 to be put into you'd be put into therapy, but you would not necessarily be put into a mental hospital. You might be put into a hospital because of the burned face, not a mental hospital. You'd be put into therapy. I literally worked in hospitals where they have kids 6 to 12. They don't stay in there for 10 years. The kids, they try to get out quickly as possible into foster care and so on. But that's a different discussion on its own. So this guy is in a mental hospital because he saw his mom get raped and murdered by people hired by his dad, and then space burned. He leaves at 22 a grossly disfigured young man, which they point out a lot, even though they could have fixed his face.
100%.
He escapes from the asylum on Halloween after killing two orderlies, who mock is wearing a mask to resemble the thugs were wearing. Again, there are things that would definitely not have happened in a mental hospital, and orderlies who work there would not do that. So then he goes to this Halloween party.
Well, first, the cops are like stopping vehicles on their way in the area looking for this guy, and as they're stopping vehicles, we get these two characters, Todd and his girlfriend, and Todd has a insanely overdone costume that he hasn't put on yet, that for some reason he felt it was necessary to have actual medieval weapons for. So he's got like a sharpened hatchet, a sharpened sword, a knife that are like razor sharp for literally no reason. He just felt like that was necessary for his costume. He gets killed, and Chris takes
his costume.
Yeah.
And then they go to the party.
Yeah. So like
starts killing people without anyone noticing. But this is the only thing I will take as an original concept for this film is then there's a fight that happens between some friends, a fake fight, I think. Paying close attention, and they kidnap Chris, who they think is their friend Todd. They kidnap him with a gun, and another friend disguised as a police officer, and they force him into their car. And then they're murdered.
Yeah.
By this crazy person.
Because this guy with an absolutely terrible masshole accent and also the inability to act was always has some sort of prank at his Halloween party, and his prank at his Halloween party this time was to
Have
pretend
himself
to
get murdered.
be arrested, and then he gets murdered.
Yeah,
Yeah,
normal stuff.
yeah, really normal.
And
As
then, of course, Chris goes back and murders pretty much everyone else at the party.
yeah, pretty much. Well, most people have vacated, so there's only like 4 or 5 people left. He doesn't kill the masshole accent guy's girlfriend because she happens to randomly, for some reason, be wearing the necklace that Chris's mother had, which I don't know that they ever explained how she got that or why she was wearing it. But so doesn't kill her. It's kind of like that whole Jason not killing the lady that he thought was his mom because she was wearing the sweater thing in the second Friday the 13th movie.
Yep.
So yeah, there was that. Let's see what else was there. And then there was like a weird thing about like him finding his mother's dead body hidden behind a wall.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure why.
Some reason that had to be in there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the whole movie. They did
so the one girl does escape the house.
Mm-hmm.
And
Kendall?
Yeah, and then don't they capture her in a basement?
No, that's the one. So Kendall was one of the 2 lesbian girls. So of course, this is early
Shannon
Asylum
as well.
Yeah, so this is early Asylum, so there has to be lesbians in it.
Yes, because
there has to be a lesbian sex scene. And hey, fun fact: the gal that played, I almost called her a gatey, the lady that played the main character in Invasion of the Pod People.
Quality acting in that movie.
Yeah, who had a random lesbian sex scene. Also got a random lesbian sex scene in Halloween Night. That's a thing. So
but
they
not filmed like a porno this time though.
Yeah, that's true. So they were going at it and finish, and then Chris comes in to murder them, and Kendall runs away and like tells whatever the guy who owns the house's name was that like, hey, there's somebody in the house and he's like going to murder Shannon.
David, right? David?
David, maybe? I don't know. They all had
I think it's David.
They all had really generic white people names. Just putting that out there.
But Shannon shoots, but this kind of chase short. Shannon shoots Chris, thinks he's dead. Of course, we know this is a slasher movie. Chris is not dead.
Always.
Police and everything arrives, and David apparently is not there, and Shannon ends up shooting a hooded person that shows up because for some reason David's now wearing a hood, and of course Shannon shoots him in the face, kills him.
He was in a body bag, so the body bag sits up. And she assumed it was Chris for some reason. And
just shoots him.
She whipped the gun off of the police officer's
Which
belt,
you can't do.
Which you cannot do. But she did. And shot him. And then it turns out to be her boyfriend, not the murderer. And then
I thought he was in a hood, but oh well. And then you see Chris hitchhiking, picked up by a car. Presumes he's still having a Halloween night, and the car just leaves. And the movie is done. This movie is a slasher movie. Yeah. Yes. There are lots of kills. Yes. Yeah. Is it good as Jolly Roger? No. Does it have everything that Asylum movies tend to have in this era? Yes. Is it fun? No. Ooh. And does it have good acting? No.
Does it have nudity? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
For some reason in this era, every one of these movies have nudity.
It's true. It's good old GTA. Gratuitous tits and ass.
Yeah. Do I regret making us watch this movie? No, there's worse.
Not as much as I regret watching Evil Blonde.
There are worse movies to this one, done by Asylum.
That is true.
We'll get to them eventually because we have to.
And I mean, we started with one of them.
Do we want to do a picker wheel again and see if fate lets us pick something else other than 11, 11, 11? I'll just pretend that didn't happen.
We have to watch it, dude.
Eventually.
The picker wheel is sacred.
Is it?
No,
it said pick 13, 13, 13.
That is true. It did say 13, 13, 13. On our sliding scale of Asylum films,
it's just kind of slid off of it with some of the other ones.
Yeah. This is more watchable than Monster, unfortunately, because Monster is just the way it's filmed. You can't watch it. Monster is better made than this movie. It is way better made, but this one's more watchable than Monster.
Yeah, it didn't make me want to vomit.
Yeah, it puts it like fourth from the bottom. Yeah.
It's part of the slid off the scale era of this type of one.
I've definitely lost track of our picker wheel. I know that number 1 is still Zombies.
The Zombies was amazing.
And I know that 2 and 3 are the Avengers Grimms. And for you, 2 is Shark's Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Halloween night. Let's see if the picker wheel will save our lives.
Oh, it's Saturday night. No, Halloween. That song is better than anything this movie has.
At some point, I swear, we will watch 11, 11, 11, 12, 12, 12, 13, 13, 13. It's going to happen.
But we might just need, a lot more courage before then. Can you see the wheel?
I can, yes.
It's,
All right. Wheel of
It
Asylum.
just picks 12, 12.
Wheel of Asylum. Turn, turn, turn. Tell us the movie that we shall burn. I swear if it says 11, 11, 11, I'm going to be upset. Oh!
Isn't that the Zombies spinoff?
That is the Zombie spinoff.
But I don't think we can watch it because I think it's only available on Showtime right now.
Yeah, it's only available on Showtime, and we don't have access to Showtime.
We'll get to you, Aquarium of the Dead. Don't worry. We'll get to you.
And that's like this picker wheel telling us that we have to watch 11, 11.
We'll get to you, DC Douglas. And Vivica Fox.
A Haunting in Salem.